All right, 1 second, everybody that's on. We'll get going. Content marketing. Save. All right. Facebook was the one I was having issues with, so I'm going to make sure that we're good here. Looks like we're starting the live video, and then double check YouTube that that's rolling. I think we'll be all set. All right. Facebook says it is live. Gabby, can you confirm or deny that that is accurate? It looks like YouTube's going as well. Give me if you guys hear some. All right, sweet. I think YouTube's good. Gabby, is Facebook rolling?
I see it on your story.
Sorry, Instagram and YouTube. Give us 1 second. Facebook's the one that we were having issues with before.
I see it on your story.
Can you just click over to my profile and make sure?
Oh, your profile? Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Oh, is it? Oh, it's there. Okay, cool. All right, sweet. Well, hello, everyone. So if you are coming by way of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, leave comments. I am going to be answering any questions that you have. We had some technical difficulties yesterday on Facebook specifically. I streamed live for like 30 minutes, and then something told me to check on it because it was kind of quiet. Can you mute that? Because it was quiet. So then I checked over, and apparently it was streaming to just me. The privacy setting was on just me. I had never used Riverside to stream live before because I wanted to do it on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. And Facebook's weird. They won't let you like screen share on anything unless you set it previously there, but then it won't show my face. So I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to have the capabilities of the streaming capabilities of Riverside. So I think we have it working now. I think we're good to go. So if you guys are live and active right now, please don't hesitate to drop comments, say hello. We're going to be monitoring that. I have my IT support, Gabby, off to the side here. So she's going to be helping me monitor comments and make sure that we have all questions answered. There might be some lag. I think like with live video, typically like if you comment and I don't reply to you in like 60 seconds or right away, then don't get discouraged because it may not have showed up for me until like 2 minutes later. So that being said, this is technically day 2. I might actually go back on Saturday if I have time to redo day 1 because day 1's very, very important. But this is the 5-day content marketing lab live is what I'm calling it. And this is just a test run to see what we have going on. I'm basically going to be walking you through the most essential parts of establishing a incredible brand for yourself on content marketing on the organic side of things, whether that be social media, podcasting, YouTube. Yesterday, I went over the 3 reasons why content marketing fails, whether that be that you started it up and stopped it, or you're really discouraged with it, or if you haven't launched anything at all. Currently, that is housed on my YouTube channel as because that did go live correctly, but I don't think it went live on Facebook correctly. So I'm probably going to try to do that again on Saturday. So stick around. I will send a notification out if that is the case and I do end up doing that. But today we're going to go over literally what I'm going to go over is my actual onboarding process that I take clients through when I'm actually working with them to either manage their podcast, social media, YouTube channels, or whatever. And the way that I have this structure for you guys is it's going to be a lot more question based. I don't want to just like, because there's some things, intricacies that I take clients through that really isn't necessary for you guys because it's a partnership that I have with the person I'm working with. However, what I would say is, everything that I'm going to go through is like very relevant for anyone that is going to be doing any kind of social media content marketing. So you're putting out daily Instagram reels or Facebook reels, TikTok videos, YouTube shorts, or if you're running a full-blown YouTube channel where you're putting out 2-3 long-form videos a week, or you're running a podcast, whether you're putting 1 podcast out, 3 podcasts out. But especially for those of you who feel like maybe your current game plan was just like spaghetti thrown at the wall and you were told at a mastermind that you need to start a podcast or social media, so you did, and you didn't really have a game plan put together. Today I'm going to actually walk you through every single step that I take my clients through and how I help them establish an actual game plan and strategy, if you will, to actually get everything lifted off the ground. And I am somebody that keeps things very simple. Like you can ask anybody that I work with. Like I am one person that I will never complicate things. I think a lot of marketers in our space really try to complicate things to try to make themselves sound smart. But for me, I am definitely on the side of keeping things simple, because the less simple and complex it is on our end, the less simple and complex it's going to be when we're actually producing and putting out, and for our audience to maintain awareness with us. So that being said, once again, Instagram, if you are there, say hello. And then I think we're rolling there. Gabby, we still good on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then double check YouTube one more time, and then we'll get rolling. And I do have a slideshow to share with you guys. Okay, cool. YouTube's good. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right to it. I've got a tight deadline today. I do have to be done by 3 o'clock Central Time. I will be back here tomorrow to for the next day, which is going to be, let's see here. What's day 3? Hold on, guys. I should have had this pulled up. I am so sorry. Let me check to see what day 3 is going to be. Hang tight. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. So tomorrow what we're going to go over is what type of content and how much that you should be creating in order to get it put out. And I'm going to give you some of the best practices to make sure that you're creating great content. Day 4 is going to be creating the content itself. So creating it 101. So how to come up with your topics, your ideas, the ideation of it, what equipment to use. So a lot of this stuff we're actually going to be skimming over today, but I'm not going to be going super deep into it. It's just going to be more questions to you and say, like, here's some of the things that you need to think about. So between day 3 and day 4, we're going to be going super deep into how to actually create the content itself. I'll be going over whether you're doing social media, so you're filming short form videos specifically for social media, or you're clipping it from podcasts or whatever. I'm going to take you through each one of those processes that our video editors do. I have 5 full-time video editors on my team, and how they actually edit video. And I actually have a process map that I'll walk you through as well. And then the last day will be leveraging basically AI to help you create content. So some of these days are going to overlap a little bit. However, it just depends on how deep we're going into it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop in. Once again, if you are joining me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, leave comments, say hello. Let me know that you're there. I'm not counting on a lot of people watching the live of this, because I know I'm just kind of streaming and smack dab in the middle of the day. So if you are watching this, I believe most of the people that are going to watch this are going to watch this after the live stream. That's pretty typical. And if you do, still don't hesitate to drop a comment and let me know if you have questions, because I'm more than happy to answer any questions that we have at all from anybody. And I will stay as long as I need to answer those questions for you. Okay, let me share my screen. And Gabby, I'm going to share a screen. So if you could just let me know if that populates. Oh, yep, that's the one I want. Okay. Slideshow. Okay. It's feeding on my end. Yeah, it's a little bit of a lag. There it goes. Sharing screen. Sweet. All right. Screen share is active. Pre-workout is active. And thank God I have technical support today. I've got Gabby, the IT guru. She's a rock star. So here's what we're gonna do. So I didn't spend like 10-15 minutes introducing myself yesterday on day 1. But for those of you who don't know me well, I just want to briefly run through like why you should listen to me and why I'm here. So I've been doing what I do in the media space for 13 years now, pretty much since high school. And it's been a long time coming. I've specifically been in the real estate investing space. However, what I do now with content creation is relevant to anybody, no matter what industry you're in. If you're a realtor, if you are a donut shop owner, if you are a gym owner, doesn't matter. All of this is still very relevant to you. And the execution of social media, podcast, YouTube, the execution slightly differs depending on what you're doing, which we're going to go over today. But the principles of it are still the same. So for me, I've worked with over 300 people over the last, I've been in business full time for 6 years, but I've done what I do for a very long time. And so full time in a business, I've worked with over 300 clients on any of their branding stuff when it comes to the content marketing side of things, like social media, content creation. I visit clients on site, shoot video with them. I help them establish game plans. I do consulting. We fully manage social media, fully manage YouTube and podcasts. And so I've worked with a lot of people and seen a lot of different things that can trip people up and really stop them from moving forward with creating content consistently. So that being said, that's a little bit about me. Now, so I started off yesterday with the quote about from Donald Miller about people don't buy the best products and services, they buy the products and services they understand the fastest. I kind of thoroughly explained that explanation, but basically what it is like we need to leverage our social media, our content marketing to help our target demographic understand who we are and what we do as quickly as possible, because then that helps push them to the finish line to convert as quickly as possible. But this is my second favorite quote about content marketing that I haven't coined yet. I really should, but I haven't yet. But I've kind of like constructed this over the years. And to me, my core definition, and when I say content marketing, I'll throw the main three: social media, podcast, YouTube in there, but you can also throw in email marketing or any other types of content that you would put out. Magazines, honestly, go in this, books. So content marketing is literally just at its core foundation and roots. All it is answering questions that your target audience, customer, demographic has about who you are, what you do, your services, your product, and your industry. That's literally what it comes down to. And then you're just filming it or recording it and putting it out there to answer those questions. So I'll give you a very, very good example. I work with a lot of real estate investors and people that buy houses from motivated sellers, people that are going through like foreclosure and stuff like that, and they need to sell their house quick and they need to get cash and they need to get out from underneath it and that sort of thing. And what I basically will pose as a question is, what are your customers, what questions are they asking? So if they're calling you and saying, I'm Mary and I need to sell my house, what are the questions that follow that statement after they've introduced themselves to you? Whatever those questions are, shoot video on it. One of the highest performing questions right now, especially in the Midwest markets, for people is, what is the difference between a realtor and a investor? So if you literally shoot a video on the difference between a realtor and a real estate investor and put that content out there, that's literally what content marketing is. That's all it is. So whatever business you're in, if you're a business owner and you're kind of paying attention to you have a pulse on what your customers are asking about or what their interest is, then you need to be documenting that in some way, shape, or form, and then putting it out. Now, on day 5, so that would be Friday, I'm going to be walking you through how you can literally create unlimited topics with AI, so ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, or whatever it is that you're using. And literally, the prompt would just be, give me 50 topics about like that my customers would ask about who I am and what I do, and then it'll rip that off. But that's literally what the sum of content marketing is. And I love this statement too. Essentially, like in today's day and age, like we can get pitched all the time, right? So you're getting pitched on commercials, you're getting pitched on ads all the time through your Facebook feed. You're getting pitched when you walk onto the lot of a car dealership. Like you're getting pitched constantly. And it's in our direct nature as humans, especially nowadays, to automatically deflect those pitches. So it's become harder and harder to straight sell when people are a lot more open to it before, because it was just the way that you did things. Now, I believe that this statement fully encompasses why content marketing is so important nowadays, is because currency truly does follow value. And that's not just from a content perspective. Obviously, like in business in general, if you deliver value, then the money's going to come like at some point, right? That's literally the truth of business as a whole. But with content marketing, if you can answer a question that a customer or somebody that is a potential lead has about who you are and what you do, even before they talk to you at all, you can answer that through a video or through a podcast or a social media post, then you automatically will create relevance with that person watching it. And you're going to be able to just like enter. It's essentially breaking the ice to open the door for you to talk with them without them having their guard up, is ultimately what you want. And so that's why this statement is so important nowadays, especially with content marketing, is because currency truly does follow value. And some of the people that deliver the most value in their content are the ones that are seeing the most money come through the door for them, right? So obviously, like I talked about yesterday, we are leveraging content, our podcast, our social media as marketing itself. But if you lead with value first, and I told you guys about the 90-10 rule. So I have this rule, 100% of your content, 90% of it should be value based. So you're teaching something, education, information, entertainment, whatever. 10% you've earned the right to give a call to action. Just tell people, if you're this person, you need this, I have this, here's how you can get it. And you've earned that 10%, right? So still you need to leverage it as marketing, but as long as you're leading with value. So let's go ahead and get into the core of what we've got today. Gabby, are we still good? I'm good on Instagram. Facebook's still running. I closed out YouTube, and I should not have done that. So let me make sure that that's still going. Yep, we're good. Okay, so YouTube is still rolling. I'm actually just going to click on this. Forgive me if you hear something. Yeah, we're still rolling there. Okay, cool. Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of today's topic. So building out a strategy. Now, here's what I'll tell you. At the end of the slideshow, I'm going to give you a way to be able to reach out to me. You're just going to email me. And if you're watching right now and you want to take note, you can direct message me on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. And let me know you watched my presentation, you want my notes and that sort of thing. I'll give my slides over. But literally, I have basically 7 steps that I take people through in order to build a strategy out for them with their content marketing. So you can literally take this and clone it for your social media stuff. And I would actually encourage you to think about it this way. Like, are you starting a social media presence? Are you starting a podcast? Are you starting a YouTube channel? Like, take this into those bite-sized pieces. This shouldn't really take you a crazy amount of time to go through. For the most part, if you have been in business and any capacity, 2 or 3 years or whatever, and beyond that, you should know the answer to most all of these questions. One of the things we'll spend the most time on is knowing your target demographic, which you should know inside and out. But that's the thing we'll spend the most time on. So if you have that answer very thoroughly well thought out, then you can typically blow through this pretty quickly. But I wanted to be able to give some explanation behind these 7 steps, because these 7 steps truly will lay out exactly what you need to do to build a strategy that actually works for you to, the word that I used yesterday that is the most important word in content is consistency. It's definitely not the sexiest word, but it is the most important word, because if you start a podcast and you go 5 months in and then you start to fizzle out and you're like, I'm not seeing, okay, look, like the best podcasts in the world weren't built in 5 months. I can tell you that right now. And you have to commit to it. Either commit or just don't do it. Like make sure that you're giving the proper time and effort into things. But this is going to help you actually put like a map, a roadmap on the table for you so that you can look at it and say, like, I know what direction I'm headed. And as long as I stick with this, tweak it along the way, then things are going to be all right. Okay. So that's what we're rolling into now. So here's what I would say is number 1, what are your expectations? So I put in parentheses there, goals. Ultimately, that's what this is. So if you have a business and you're running a service, you have product or whatever it is, what are the expectations that you have for, and honestly, you could rinse and repeat this for your marketing as a whole, not just social media or content or your podcast, especially for those things, but what are you looking to get out of it? That's like the number 1 thing that you need to start with, because if you don't know what that is, you're not going to be able to remotely start building out any of these other steps within this process. And ultimately, you are going to fizzle out and quit down the road because you're like, why am I doing this in the first place? When you could answer that question, the first thing that you did, you could answer that question, and then you don't ask that question later on down the road. Maybe the question you're asking later on down the road is this still working? Do I need to tweak anything? But you know exactly still what direction you're going into. So I call this the North Star method. So if you've ever seen me present live, I will one out of 2 times I'm actually bringing this up, and it's for good reason. Normally I bring this up for people that are kind of just beginning in what they're doing, but ultimately what the North Star is like, conceptually we know, like, you have the North Star and then you follow that North Star, and then that's going to lead you to where you want to go, like from a concept standpoint. And that's ultimately what I'm kind of shaking this down to, because when people start, and again, I used this example yesterday, but I've been into several masterminds where I'll walk into a room And somebody that has a highly successful business generating $10 million a year in revenue, $20 million a year in revenue, and somebody in the crowd will sure enough sit up and say, hey, you should start a podcast because you have a lot to share. And then the person in the front of the room will say, why do I need to start a podcast? Like I'm good with what I have right now. Business is growing, marketing that we're doing is working. And then somebody will say like, yeah, you need to start a podcast. And then that person will feel the peer pressure ultimately of having to start a podcast, and they have no idea why. They don't have a coaching program. They don't have any kind of like courses or anything like that. And so then they'll start it up, put all the effort into it at the time. Then other things will start to slip that was not slipping before. Then 3 or 4 months down the road, it stops, and they just like, yeah, I don't know why I started this in the first place. We need to know what we're doing it for. And literally, as simple as it is, and again, I love keeping things simple, it literally just comes down to what's your product? What's your service? So for me, I have a podcast called the REI Marketing Weekly, where I literally will bring on guests to talk about the marketing that they are doing in their business to generate motivated seller leads for their real estate business. And I don't invest in real estate currently. I do a little bit of lending, but that's it. I work only with real estate investors just because I've been in the space for 13 years. So I know the industry inside and out, know it very well. I was a marketing director for a large wholesaling company. I was doing 300 deals a year I did that for about 6 or 7 years. So I know the space, I know the industry. However, I am not the expert in what these people are talking about when I get them on as a guest for my show. However, the people that are on the other side of the podcast listening, those are my people that I am ultimately trying to attract as a service provider for them. So I leverage the podcast to dip into those audiences, to bring people to get me on their radar. And then in the middle of my podcast, I have a mid-roll ad that pitches my services, tells them to follow me, subscribe to my show, reach out if you have questions. And to this day, one of the best marketing tactics that I have in my kind of arsenal right now is my podcast, both on the side of the people that are listening, but then also I'm starting to dip into affiliates. Like I'll have a guest on the show. I'll bring them on and they can talk about their service and what they do. And then I'll tell people and the audiences say like, hey, go reach out to this person, let them know Josh sent you. And then if they do use that service, then I get cut a check. And I've had a couple of those cut recently and they have been awesome. The other thing that I use my podcast for is the people that get on my show. I will hang out and talk with them for a little bit, get to know them. And ultimately, sometimes that leads to a business connection. And I'm able to actually do business with the people that, like, if I did not invite them to be on my show in the first place, they wouldn't be working with me. And so I use that as kind of like a networking tool in a way to deliver value to them. So I have a very purposeful setup on why I started my podcast. So for you, when you're thinking about it, ultimately it needs to lead down to a conversion. Like the star that you are following needs to lead to a conversion. So starting a podcast just because it's a passion project or something you want to do, that's all noble and everything, and that's great, and you want to share, amazing, you want to be a go-giver. However, that ultimately doesn't pay the bills, essentially. But the other side of it is that you are now going to be putting in a lot of time and effort into something that definitely won't lead anywhere unless you redirect it into a place that it will lead to some sort of cash flow or revenue for you, or brand building, establishment, and stuff like that. And I do work with people where they have a podcast and it's not directly tied to their business, but they do have it like hosted as like this is Burning the Ships podcast. One of my good friends, Jason Stewart, we manage his podcast. Burning the Ships podcast is not directly tied to what they do as a business. They have a capital fund that they can lend real estate investors money, but the podcast is hosted by Jason Stewart, owner of 601B Capital. And so he leverages that platform that he's built with the podcast to pitch his services to the audience. It's similar to what I talked about with my podcast and what I do. So ultimately it does lead. There's a road that leads from what I'm doing in the content space to my services in some way. And even if you look at my YouTube channel and what content I'm putting out, I'm basically telling people how to do what I do. And the reason why that works is because I'm banking on somebody trying it out and me becoming the thought leader in the process while teaching them how to do it. Then either A, they're going to succeed in it and cool, they don't need me. I don't need that person to work with me in the first place. B, they're going to try it, suck at it, come back to me and say like, I tried it, but I need your help with it. So then they end up working with me. Or C, they try it or don't try it, and then they give up and fail and they don't want to come back to it, which in that case, that's a mindset issue, in my opinion, where it's like they're not willing to stay consistent or give the effort to it. So I'm not going to work with that person anyway. So either way, it's a win-win-win for me if somebody's consuming my content on my YouTube channel. So that's the way we look at it. But be purposeful. What are you thinking about? Like if you're starting social media content, why are you doing it? Who are you talking to? And that's what you need to be focused on, is what is your North Star and what are you following essentially? Okay, Instagram's still going. I'm just double check. Guys, I got PTSD. I literally spent 30 minutes yesterday streaming and didn't, apparently I was only set to have it streamed to my personal account and only I could view it. So it wasn't public. So that was fun and a massive waste of time. But it was good practice. But now we got it covered because we had our IT manager, Gabby, come help me with that. So, okay, cool. Let's go to number 2 here. So the second thing that you need to go through is, who is your target customer? Okay, so be ready for this one. This is an earth-shattering topic. There's 2 methods that I'll typically, actually, let me see here. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna land on this slide. So, and Instagram, by the way, if you're watching, I do have my slideshows. So if you want to direct message me, I will send you a link to the video of this recording and also a PDF of my slides so you guys can follow along afterwards. So send me a direct message. Let me know that you want that. Okay, so that being said, as we're talking about our target customer, target audience, like, so I specifically put the word customer in here and not demographic or audience. And the reason I did that is because, again, I'm not sitting here on this 5-day challenge that I'm running and teaching you guys how to build an audience. I'm trying to teach you how to create content that's going to generate customers, because that's ultimately what we're striving for. Again, as we talked about yesterday, social media and content is going to be leveraged and needs to be leveraged as marketing, not just we're putting out content so that we can, you know, be cool and that sort of thing. Like, that's not the objective. We want to make sure that we are actually using this and leveraging it as marketing. So that being said, customer is the word that we want to use for this situation. So with that, we need to be thinking about a few things. Number 1 is, who are they? Literally, who are they? And I'm going to start off by saying this, and I said it yesterday. If you are in business, if you've been in business for 12 months or more, and you don't know your target demographic inside and out, then you have missed the number 1 thing that you are supposed to do in marketing and in sales and in business. You need to know who your target demographic is. Now, I'll tell you in a second, there's a couple of very easy processes that you can follow to help establish what that target demographic is. But especially for, like, I've done, I did a consulting 1-day sprint with somebody, a strategy session, like basically like this, and I walked them through everything, and it took us 8 hours to do it, which was the plan. It's a full day thing, but he has a very well built out business, does rehabs on the West Coast, actually in Las Vegas. Amazing real estate business, and he's just not really, he knows inside and out who his customer is for that business. But when it came to the social media and what he's putting out and that sort of thing, we had to go through this a little bit more thoroughly to figure out, like, okay, are we marketing to, because he buys houses from sellers, but then he flips them. So he's also marketing for contractors, and he's also marketing for capital, to raise capital for his business. And then he sells those houses retail. So he also needs to market for a retail buyer. So ultimately, we had like 4 different buckets of audiences or customers that we have to market to. And so we had to build out individual, basically spec sheets of those demographics. But it's worth the time because they're all different people and they all need to be treated very differently. So, you know, a motivated seller, that's kind of a transactional process. The retail buyer is kind of a transactional process. But then raising capital, that could be an ongoing relationship, and so can the contractor be an ongoing relationship, of course. So you can curate the middle 2, but then the last 2 are very transactional, and they'll go in and out and not really kind of cycle again. So that being said, like, we had to go through those things. So the first thing is, who are they? Like, you need to establish who they are, interests, like what like what is their actual profession, age demographics, stuff like that. Just your typical basic stuff. And what do they by the way, this framework that I'm giving you right here is the framework we're going to use to build out our call to action. So I literally kind of hinted at this yesterday, but we got to build a call to action to tell people how to work with us. This is the framework that we're going to use. But this is also a really good exercise for creating your target demographic and your target customer. So what need do they have? So basically, what are they struggling with? What's their pain point, if you will? If you're a real estate investor and it's you're marketing to a motivated seller lead, well, what's their motivation? Are they going through foreclosure? Do they go through a divorce? Um, are they at tax sale? Are they, do they have liens on the properties? Does they need too much work? Like, what are the motivations that that person is going through? Because if you know what that is, then you're able to essentially like take that information and leverage it inside of your content marketing to drive that home with the customer. So if their need is they have a house that's a 70-year-old house and it needs way too much work, so they can't put it on the open market because then, inspections and that sort of thing, they just need to sell outright for cash for somebody that's going to just buy it for cash and then fix it up on their own. Well, your in with that is putting out a video that might say like, do you have a house that is old and beat up and needs a lot of work and you just need to get out from underneath it? Well, we buy houses with cash. Or here's some of the options that you have to be able to go through the process and get rid of your house. And then at the end of the video, you have a call to action that says, we can buy houses like this, so give us a call. And that's literally what it is. So you need to know what that pain point is and how people are looking at it from the other scope. So for me, like specifically for me, somebody that's going to work with me is I work with people that I'm very specific on the needs that they have. So typically it's going to be that somebody knows they need to do social media, podcast, YouTube, but they don't know how. They don't have the time to fully manage it. They don't have the resources to go through it, and resources including staffing and that sort of thing. I also need to make sure that their budget is correct. They're actually committed to it. There's a handful of like triggers with that. But the needs, the pain points that they have is they know that they need to start a podcast, but they just don't have the time to sit down and figure out how to do it. Or they don't have the staffing to be able to help them film, to edit, to publish it, or they don't like have the knowledge. They don't know how to do it. How do I start like recording? That sort of thing. And that's where I come in to help fulfill those needs. So you need to know exactly what that is for your customer. Then on the other side of that is what do you have, what do you offer to fulfill their needs? So basically, pretty simply put, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this because this is very simple. What do you do? What's your product? What's your service? So if I have somebody come to me and say, I want to start a podcast, but I don't know how to get started, I don't have the staffing for it, I can look at them and say, oh, well, I have the staffing for it. I can tell you how to start it. I can walk you through the steps on doing it. So I have this offer that I can fulfill their need. So you need to have that at your disposal very easily. And I'm again not going to spend a lot of time on that because it's very simple. But then the last part of this, which we'll very directly discuss towards the end, I think it's going to be either number 6 or 7, is how can they get it? So what is your call to action? If it's a very complex road to be able to convert a lead and for them to come to you after they've watched a video and now they're going to convert with you, that you're not going to convert people. Even the most motivated people, if they can't figure out how to work with you and you make it easy for them, they are going to ditch you and go find somebody else. And worst thing in the world is I've actually seen this, like even personally, like I think about a great example. So recently I just started literally on, when I say recently, Sunday. I'll use an even better example. So a couple weeks ago, I was doing some research and I wanted to dig into taking creatine. So just for like personal reasons, I wanted to start like, does it make sense for my body to take creatine? I work out very actively. I'm, very health conscious person. And so I was thinking about that. So I did a little research, of course, with ChatGPT to figure out if it made sense. I gave ChatGPT all my like all the statistics about my health history and that sort of thing and what I struggle with and all that. And it said that I should take it. So it gave me some options. So I went over to, I won't say the name of the brand, but I went over to a very reputable brand and started looking up like creatine options. Well, they apparently don't call it creatine. They call it something else that's very specific to their brand. And then in very, very small print, it's creatine. But like they call it something else just to be a little trendy and just to like have their own thing. I didn't know what was what. Like it was actually very complicated because there were so many different options. So then I went to the very next brand, and sure enough, right then and there, it was just very simply put, straight creatine monohydrate, and that was it. That was the one I ended up buying because it was easy for me to know, like, that's what I need. So then I sent that back to ChatGPT. I said, "Is this the one that I need to get?" And then ChatGPT said, "Yeah, that's the good one." And so I bought that. And the brand, frankly, the brand that I first checked out is a brand that I stick with a lot of other products. So I wanted to stick in that same brand family, but they just made it too complicated. And so I didn't convert, even though I got hit up multiple times with ads and social media content and that sort of thing about what their product was. It was still very hard for me to understand how I could actually get it. So I had a need. They had the product to fulfill the need that I have, I'm sure, but they made it difficult for me to understand the product itself, especially with the content they're putting out. There's just like talking about things that were irrelevant to me and that sort of thing. And so it's important to make sure that we're very clear on how people can get to our services or our products, and we can do that by leveraging social media content or podcasts. And it's basically just as simple as telling people, like, direct message me if you want this, or go to this website if you want this, and just make it easy for it to be found. Next thing is, where are they? So step 3 of 7, where are they, is basically where are we going to publish content. So are we going to put content out on podcast platforms? Are we going to put content out on our YouTube channel? What type of YouTube channel? Is it going to be a personal brand YouTube channel or a brand YouTube channel? That'd actually be a very, very good discussion to have. Maybe I'll try to plug that into one of the next few days. But anyway, so as we're going through and thinking about like where we're going to publish content, this is something that we need to pair this up with for number 2, is who is our target demographic. So if we know inside and out who our target demographic is, we typically won't struggle with where are they. Okay, so I had my best friend Chat throw this together for me. So I gave it some very specific criteria on what I was looking for with the platforms, and I said, like, I want the most recent stats and numbers that you could possibly give me. So this might help some people. So this specifically has the platform on the left-hand side there. That second column is primary age range, gender split, and then the core interests and content types. So those were the 4 that I really want. Like, I didn't really care about gender split, and it just kind of gave that to me. But these 3 main things are just the platform, the age demographic, but then also the core interests and content types. That was 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the 4 that I put in, and it gave me a 5th one, which is gender, which whatever. So that being said, with Facebook, you're typically going to have like your 25 to 34-year-olds, and then even beyond that. So this says like plus 18 44. I don't know what that means, but generally speaking, you're going to have basically your millennials on there. So I'm 32 years old. I just turned 32 on Saturday, and Facebook is the platform that I use the most out of all of these, besides maybe Instagram. And again, like you see, this is 18 to 24 and the 24 to 34-year-olds. So I fall right in the middle of that age demographic. So that's exactly where I hang out the most. And then I know people that are in their teens and they have a Facebook profile because WhatsApp made them create one. And so but they never use it. They don't use Facebook because it's not in their demographics. So they're a lot more on TikTok and Instagram. And so we have to know what those specifics are. Now, here's the thing. It's like those demographics can change. So with TikTok, back in 2020, there was a wave of like where influencers, especially in the real estate space, there was like a handful of like maybe 4 or 5 influencers in the real estate space that started putting content on TikTok, and were able to build a global brand off the back of that because a lot of the age demographics were going to TikTok for the short form content, and that really reshaped the way that the algorithms work. So even this chart right here that I'm sharing, this could be irrelevant in 2 months. This could be irrelevant in 6 months. This could be irrelevant in 60 years and stay relevant right now for the next 6 years. So that's why we have to kind of keep an eye on it and keep track of it. And that's where I go back to yesterday talking about personnel, is you need to have somebody on your team, if it's not going to be you, that does research and development. Because if you don't have somebody that's keeping an eye on those things, these can all change very drastically. Because if you just wind the clocks back to like 2019 for TikTok, right when it was making the transition from Musical.ly to TikTok, then it's all entertainment. There's no education, nothing that has to do with like, you know, even cooking videos and stuff like that. Anything that had to do with education or information, it was all entertainment. Now it's a very big mix of all of it, but it's very Gen Z led as well. So even the I'm personally friends with a lot of people that have a couple million followers on TikTok. They'll even tell you that TikTok, you're not going to see a lot of conversions. You'll see a lot of eyeballs, but I'm driving people from TikTok off to my podcast or YouTube channel because that's where I see more results. And the reason why is because it's a lot more long form based. You look at YouTube, it's a lot more education based, music, entertainment, and then also like Facebook is going to be community. So that's where a lot of people have like Facebook groups and stuff like that. The groups, news, lifestyle, marketplace. So I thought marketplace was interesting. That has nothing to do with content, but I thought that was interesting because Facebook marketplace is something that Facebook's heavily invested into recently. Instagram's interesting because it's still visual lifestyle influencer content and shopping. And then you got LinkedIn, which is professional networking, careers, and B2B content. So this is where it's like, this is interesting. And I'll give you guys a very, very prime example. So I'm going to probably be making a shift to driving some marketing efforts to LinkedIn because I want to dip more into the professional genre of customers for me and get a little bit more precise with that. But up until this point, for the last 6 years of business, I've not really given any effort into LinkedIn. And the reason why is because typically my demographic, which I work with a lot of real estate investors, mainly real estate investors, they are not hanging out on LinkedIn at all. You would think that they would be, but they're not because they're primarily hanging out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and podcasts. That's where, because they're learning about stuff. They're learning about how to invest in real estate or do marketing or up their sales and that sort of thing. That's what they're focused on. And they're not focused on networking on a social platform. They would rather do that in person. So, and that can change that. And I know that has changed for a lot of people, but LinkedIn is somewhere where I have not put a lot of effort content wise because of those reasons. But I put a lot of effort into podcasts because that's where people get, their business and education and storytelling and stuff like that. And so like for me, podcast is very important, and that's where I farm and generate a lot of really good leads and relationships. So this kind of gives you just a little insight on where it is today. Literally, I generated this image about 30 minutes before I went live because I wanted to be as fresh as possible. But these are the things that you need to be thinking about. Is like if you have your target demographic nailed down and you know who they are, what need they have, what you have to offer, and how they can get it, then you can pair this with your demographics, right? So like that if you are marketing to a 32-year-old male who's looking for community and lifestyle as well, that Facebook is going to probably be the way that you're going to be marketing to them. So that's the things that we need to be thinking about, right? All right, next thing, and this we'll go a little bit deeper into over the next couple days as well, so you guys can dig into that a little bit more. And I'm actually going to backtrack a little bit. So let me go back, and we're halfway through. I'm going to kind of blaze through the rest of these because I got to stop at 3. Once again, if you're joining me and you're live, feel free to say hello and what's up. Kind of monitoring comments, but I'm also kind of blazing through as we go along here. So, and Gabby, can you hear me? Are we still alive? We're still good. Okay, I don't know if Gabby's still in the room or not. Okay, we're just gonna keep moving forward. Let me see here. Okay, cool. So, actually, I was going to backtrack. So, really quick tip. If you're somebody that is struggling with creating your target demographic or you really haven't taken steps to do that, 2 different systems that you could use. Number one is there's basically 2 books, but the books do have systems to them. And I think both of them work very well. Is you could use the one-page marketing book. That's a very, very good book / system that you can utilize. In fact, let me look it up real quick. One-page marketing plan. One-page marketing plan is the name of it. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Share. Don't share. Here's that book. So the one-page marketing plan is excellent for, it's a pretty short read. It might take you less than like 3 hours worth of reading in order to go through this. But at the end of it, it has like a PDF that you can download and then utilize it to actually have like literally one page for creating a marketing plan. And this is really good to help you figure out what those demographics are. And then the other one is StoryBrand. Oh, he's got a 2.0. Okay, so maybe I'll have to go check it out. But StoryBrand by Donald Miller is a really good one as well. Talks about a lot of really good insight on how to actually establish your customer journey. This one's a little bit more intuitive than the previous one, but this one's really, really good. So if you need any help or you need a better system on actually creating a target demographic, then I would highly advise either one of those. And principally, they all just work very, very well. So that being said, let's go back here. Okay, so we're going to kind of blaze through these. Okay, next thing is number 4 is how much to put out. So we got to be thinking about how many posts do I put out, podcasts do I put out, videos, emails, etc. There's literally 2 things that we got to think about. Number 1, what is your customer audience consuming? We need to be thinking about that. If I'm marketing to business professionals that are very busy, they work 80, 90-hour weeks, they're workaholics, they never stop, that sort of thing, putting out daily social media videos 4 times a day in front of them, or a podcast a day that's an hour long each in front of them, is probably not going to be the way to go. We probably want to make it 1 podcast episode a week that's very, very driven and goes super deep, where they can focus on it and get a lot of value out of it and farm out a lot of really good information, as opposed to just like skimming the surface on some things. We want to make sure that it's very directed to them. But if you are marketing to somebody that is, let's say it's a foodie, and you have a local, like one of my best friends has a gyro food truck. If he's that person, and I actually gave him a bunch of advice on this kind of stuff. Some of the advice I gave him was, if you are creating content for that, like you need to probably create daily videos to stay top of mind for people. Because what do people do every single day, multiple times a day? They eat. So for him, if he's local, which he is, then he should be putting out content and trying to really drive home geographically local. And I understand on social media, you can't necessarily do that, but he probably needs to be putting out, if possible, multiple videos a day on social media so that he can hit people that are local in the area. And when they're hungry, like when they actually are craving a gyro, he's the first person that they think about and they can go get that food. So that's kind of the thought process you need to be going through, is what is your customer consuming? What do they have? How much do they have interest in consuming? And even if you don't know the answer to that question, you could always just go to ChatGPT and ask that question a little bit more specifically. But think about it. Like, put yourself in their shoes. Do a little bit of homework. Think about, like, maybe even asking, like, sending out a survey. If you have an existing customer base, send out a survey and say, like, how much of these platforms do you consume on a daily basis? And just see what you get. Then that'll give you the exact answer that you need. The next thing is, and to me, it's not more important than the first one, but it is the most vital one, is what your capacity allows. This is where people get tripped up mostly, is that they start a podcast. They think they're going to put out 3 episodes a week. They start off with social media. They think they're going to put out 3 videos a day. And then boom, things come up and they start forgetting about stuff and they ultimately stop creating content altogether. You need to make sure that you start off with what you know you can do. This is not like, and as an entrepreneur myself, it's very easy for us to like say balls to the wall, is super aggressive. Like, I want to make sure that I'm hammering home everything that I possibly can. But in the world of organic content, you need to start off with what you can stay consistent with and then build on top of it. So if you can stay consistent with 1 podcast episode a week for 6 months, then add on 1 more per month, then do that. And then build on top of that from there as you go along. But if you're going to start off hyper aggressive and not have the infrastructure and the framework to do it, or the capacity, or if it's going to be difficult for you to run a camera yourself, if you don't have that staffing and you can't just pop into a studio and sit down, that's the type of things that you really need to be thinking about, because it's going to draw, like, you don't want to become a full-time content creator when you've never put out a podcast or a social media post before, because you're going to have expectations that actually don't matter. And that's one of the main reasons that content marketing fails, that I talked about yesterday, was expectations. So we need to make sure that we know what our capacity is and we build around that. Okay, then you can always build on top of that from there. Next thing is to create a plan for content that delivers. We're actually going to be talking about this tomorrow and Thursday, so I'm not going to go super deep into it. But we need to talk about our recording cadence. Like, how often do we record? Are we batching our content? So if I'm doing a podcast episode a week, Can I sit down and record 4 hours worth of content one day per month so I don't have to worry about it the rest of the month? Like I do that with my YouTube content, the YouTube videos you see on my YouTube channel. I sit down one time a month and record. I put out 2 videos a week. So that's 8 videos a month. I'll sit down for 8 videos and record those. Typically, those are going to be 10 to 15 minutes long a piece. So I'll slot out 4 hours of a day just to sit down and record all those videos, but I don't have to do it again for the next month, basically. So you need to be thinking about that. Where are you going to record? You're going to record in your office. You're going to record at home, or you're going to record in a studio, or whatever it is. You need to be thinking about stuff. And again, all this stuff we're going to go over tomorrow. So make sure that you join in so that we can go over that. Who's recording it? Are you doing it yourself, or you have somebody on your team doing it? we need to know what that is too, and that's part of your capacity also. And then what gear to use. We can't be building out a $20,000 recording studio when we've never recorded a piece of content in our life before. You need to start from one thing at a time, right? Next thing is establishing your call to action or your funnels. And I went over this a lot yesterday, but that framework that I gave earlier, basically this is what you're going to follow. So it's going to be who is your demographic, what need do they have, and then what do you have to offer them, and how are they going to get to it. So it's basically setting up like if you are a person that needs to sell your house fast for cash because it has too much work on it, and you need help with that, then I actually buy houses in poor condition and we fix them up ourselves. You can just visit our website down below and we'll get in contact with you. And that's basically it. Like you just need to lay something out very thoroughly, but you infuse that into every single piece of your content so that you don't lose your audiences along the way. It's very important to understand. All right. Last thing, establish your content operations. We talked about this a lot yesterday. I might go deeper into this later, but here's basically the things. Is your timelines, your processes, your staffings, and your systems. Timelines is just basically nailing down like what times are things going out. So if I'm posting once per day, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m., we need to make sure that that's set for our team. If we're posting one podcast episode every Friday at 6 a.m., that needs to be set in stone, and that does not get missed, which means maybe the episode needs to be produced by Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. so that it can go through proper checks and balances and then get scheduled out. Processes, you need to have very clear-cut processes on how to, like following, like from step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, how do things get done. Proper staffing, make sure you have the right person in the right seat, and then your systems. Like, are you using a spreadsheet to manage the flow of what you're doing, or are you using Asana or Trello or whatever it is? You need to go through those things. If you missed any of that, I talked about that a lot yesterday, all 4 of these items yesterday on my presentation. So reach out. I can send you a link to the video portion of that, but check that out. And then your touch base meetings, make sure you're consistently touching base and not just like setting it and forgetting it. You need to actually make sure that you're like measuring results and making sure that you're staying consistent with everything here. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up. So we got number 1, and it's literally like all these points are going to start off with the word establish. So bear with me, but it's just to stay consistent. Establish expectations. 2 is establish your core customer. 3 is establish platforms to publish to. 4, establish content volume. 5, establish plan for receiving content. 6 is establish CTA and funnels. 7 is establish content operations. These are your 7 steps to create a game plan for you that's going to work a good content marketing system. So whether you're doing social media content, you're doing email campaigns, you're writing a book, you're running a podcast, you're running a YouTube channel, any of those, all of them above, like just one of them, follow this outline, and this is going to give you exactly what you need to make sure you stay consistent. You do what you're supposed to do fundamentally, and you're not missing the boat on anything, and you have the proper expectation set, you have the right direction, strategy set, and then you have the right personnel set. And that ultimately, this will eliminate any of those issues that we talked about yesterday with direction, expectations, and personnel, which are the 3 reasons why content marketing fails. So without further ado, I think that was it. Is that my last slide? No, that one is. Okay. So again, I offered this yesterday, but if anybody wants, if you're watching this after the live video or whatever, you can still take advantage of this. Don't think that you just need to be on the live in order to take advantage. But if you have any questions or you want to just chat with me and say like, hey, I wanted to run something by you. Like I'm thinking of starting this podcast or whatever. I'm not looking to pitch anybody. I honestly just wanted to deliver some value. feel free to reach out to me in that email, josh@colormedia.com, or you can message me on Facebook or Instagram and just say, like, I saw your presentation. I wanted to talk about like this idea that I had. Would you be willing to hop on a call with me? And I'm offering a free call, 30-minute call for anybody that wants to do it. I'll send you a Calendly link. You can book a time and day that works best for you according to my calendar, and then we'll talk about it. And there's not going to be a pitch at the end. I'm not going to hold you and say like, like one of those timeshare things where you can have all this for free as long as you listen to my 45-minute pitch. Like, that's not at all what it's going to be. I'm literally looking to deliver some value. The only thing I ask for is that I can use that recording as content for myself. Any information, advice that I give you will be, I can use that for my socials and that sort of thing. But like anything that's sensitive, or if I'm talking about a very specific issue with you or something like that, that obviously won't go public. So anyway, but that's it. So today that's what I had. And I think we actually had a successful stream. I don't know if people jumped on at all, but if they did, then I think, hopefully we delivered some value. This will stick around. I'm going to leave this up on my YouTube channel, my Facebook page, so feel free to watch as often as you want. Hand this over to your team. Hand this over to people to, that you're working with, whether they're an agency or it's somebody specifically on your team and they need some direction and guidance. And like I said, like even with like, if you guys need help and you want to contact me about that free 30-minute call, but maybe you're running your content, you have somebody that you're working with that's on your team, I'd be happy to talk with them too. I work with people that are doing the content, but also people that are creating it or publishing or whatever. So I'm happy to, help out in any way, shape, or form that I can. But other than that, I think that's it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to be going over some of the intricacies of how to actually get your content rolling from a standpoint of like the tech side of things, game planning it, some tips and tricks that we're going to go over. For Wednesday and Thursday streams, they're going to be very similar to each other, but I'm going to be giving you a little bit of different context behind those two, and basically what I walk clients through and people that I'm consulting with on how to actually create their content and how I create my own content as well. So I think that's it for today. Did everything stream okay?
Yep.
Cool. Once again, big shout out to our IT department, Gabby, for helping out with making sure that we streamed live successfully today, and I think we're good. But once again, drop a comment if you still hung out towards the end here, even watching this post live video feed. So I think that's it for today. Hopefully you guys, tomorrow we're streaming at 2 Central Time, and also on Thursday and Friday. So we got 3 more days of this. So follow along as you can. Plan to be here, drop some comments, and I think that's it for today. But thank you guys for watching and hanging out. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.